Good morning. In this episode, I plan to cut this Brazilian agate in half using my 12-inch rock saw. Let's get it mounted in the saw. Okay, the rock is finished. Let's take a look and see what we got. Not too bad, that should polish up pretty nice. Because the high-speed sander runs at 3,450 revolutions per minute, you want to keep your fingers from touching the sanding disc. If not, it will take off multiple layers of skin. Unfortunately, I know this from personal experience. I'm starting with 60 grit silicon carbide sandpaper as my initial step to remove all of the marks left by my rock saw. What I'm checking for is a completely smooth surface. Once I've gotten rid of all of the saw marks, the piece is ready to move on to the next stage of the polishing process. You should always wash the rocks between sanding stages to avoid cross-contamination from the particles left behind. After I washed off the dust created by stage 1, I'm now ready to move on to stage 2. Stage 2 is 220 grit silicon carbide sandpaper. I need to sand out all of the scratch marks created by the 60 grit sandpaper. As you can see, a shine is starting to develop. As we move through the finer grits, the shine will become more prominent. Once again, I have washed the rocks between sanding stages to get rid of all of the dust left behind by the previous step. Stage 3 is 600 grit silicon carbide sandpaper. The goal now is to remove all of the scratches left by the 220 grit sandpaper. By now, the rocks are starting to develop a decent shine. However, there is still one more stage to go. My brother and I built this low-speed polishing unit about 20 years ago. The wheel has been geared down to approximately 280 revolutions per minute and is covered with suede leather. It has been charged with optical grade cerium oxide, as that is my favorite polishing compound. I use the water bottle to keep the surface damp but not wet. This creates friction between the stone and the leather. Friction is an important part in the polishing process. As you can see, I'm applying a decent amount of pressure into the wheel. I also apply more pressure to the back edge of the stone than the front. This keeps the leather from grabbing the front edge of the stone and tearing it out of my hands. I'm also checking to make sure the entire surface is polished. If not, I turn the stone around until that area is on the back edge and apply pressure on the area that needs more work. And there we go. Now hopefully the finished product will look nice and shiny.